Roll.
Mr. Chapman?
Present.
Forbes?
Present.
Mr. Ward?
Present.
Mr. Walker?
Present.
Spears?
Okay. Board members had a chance to look over the consent agenda, and if so, we need a motion.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item B, discussion and possible board action, vote on the application of temporary appropriations for fiscal year 2021.
Obviously, this is, an important item. You know, really, this is just an estimate of what we, think that we will need as far as spending, and it's based on last year's estimate of needs. Pat Carroll looked at last year's estimate of needs and, used a 90% figure. Usually that's somewhere between 90 and 95%. With the things going on this year, you know, I think we need to have a conservative estimate. So even with our expected cuts, I think that that's a pretty good estimate. And then our building and child nutrition funds will be at 90% as well. So that's how that's set up.
Okay, you all have heard the recommendations. We need a motion.
Make the motion. I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item C, discussion and possible board action, vote on open transfers for 2021 school year.
Housekeeping item, anytime we have, open transfers, we take care of those and get them done. When we have emergency transfers, we check each one of those. Our principals check on the students. We decide what to do with them, and we've gone through that list and, are okay with where we're at, and so I, suggest we approve this.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item D, discussion and possible board action, vote on insurance coverage for 2020-21 school year.
Okay, we have to have these two insurances to operate. There is another insurance company out there. You know, we work with Larry Brown. He can work with either one of them, but really this is, I believe, the best one. You do a little bit of research. The other insurance company has had some problems. The vast majority of school districts in the state use OSIG. I like the fact that it's, you know, the board of directors or other school superintendents, it's an insurance set up for schools. Our premiums did go up some this year, I think about $19,000. That's still better than dealing with a company that we're not sure would be reliable. So it's my recommendation that we approve these two insurance companies.
I've got one question on that. Did it go up because we had an accident or something?
No,
or
it
did
just
normal?
And I talked to Mr. Brown about that, and they went up everywhere. And we didn't have very much new on there. You know, we've had a couple our building projects going on, but primarily it was just in
Okay.
because I wasn't happy with that.
That's a pretty big premium.
Exactly, that was something that we looked at, but he and I talked. He came to see me about a month ago, and we talked that over.
Okay. Okay, you all have heard the recommendations. We need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Seconded.
Got a motion and a second. Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item E, discussion and possible board action to vote on a motion in regards for audit format, which states, it is the desire of Cleveland Public School Board of Education to submit its annual audit as a special report utilizing the format developed and approved by the State Department of Education as authorized by the Oklahoma statutes.
All right, and this is another housekeeping item. It's just something that the State Department has us do. It's how we report our audit to them, and so I recommend that we approve this.
Make the motion to approve. Seconded.
Got a motion and a second. Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item F, discussion and possible board action to vote on activity accounts, sub-accounts, and expenditures for each sub-account and fundraiser for each account.
As you know, we have quite a few fundraisers throughout the district, primarily middle school and high school. And every year we get a list of those fundraisers and we approve them. You know, sometimes there'll be a few that we add, but we try to get the majority of them at this time. I've looked through them. I don't see anything out of the ordinary. Stephanie has worked on that as well, and I think they're about the same fundraisers we've had in the past, and the list is in your packet, and I recommend we approve these.
I'll make a motion we approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we got Brian seconding, Newton. Okay. Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item G, discussion and possible board action, vote on support salary schedule for 2020-21 school year.
This is just our support salary schedule. It has not changed, so it's the same as it was in the past, and we just need to approve it again, so I recommend we approve it at this time.
I'll make
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item H, discussion and possible board action, vote on contract with VIP voice services for 2020-21 school year.
We changed this phone provider last summer. Troy did a lot of work on this, trying to figure out it's time for us to get new equipment, and upgrade what we were doing, and we've been happy with them so far, and this is that same contract, and so I recommend that we approve VIP voice services.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations, we need a motion.
I'll make the motion we approve.
Second. Sorry.
Rick,
Okay, got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item I, discussion and possible board action, vote on contract renewal for OKTLE, Oklahoma Teacher and Leadership Effective for 2020-21 school year.
This is the contract that we use for the platform that we use to evaluate teachers. At one time, schools in the state of Oklahoma could come up with their own teacher evaluation system. About 8 or 10 years ago, they determined needed a more unified one. There were a couple different options. We have been on the OKTLE from the very beginning. We think it's the best one. Our administrators get trained in it. We think it's the right one to use, and I would suggest that we keep it. And so I'd like to recommend that we use that as our teacher evaluation tool.
Okay, you heard the recommendations, we need a motion.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item J, discussion and possible board action, vote on purchase of a VOAG truck.
We try to purchase a VOAG truck every 3 years. As you guys know, our VOAG group takes part in a lot of things. They put a lot of miles on a truck. They tend to put about 40,000 a year on. I think we're right at 120,000 miles. That's usually pretty average, and so that's over the last few years. That's been our goal. We get some money from the state, VOTEC money, that we try to kind of put aside to prepare for this, and we've been doing that. We also budgeted some extra money to make up the difference. And truthfully, the price that we're getting back is really coming in under budget of what we had set aside for. That was welcome news to me. I didn't know exactly what to expect. So we're working on getting one right now. Would like to have it purchased before the July 1 board meeting. That's the goal. So, you know, if you paid any attention, it's hard to get vehicles right now. There's not a lot of them out there, but we're looking to try to do basically the same type of thing that we have, and then we'll trade in the one that we have. So I was happy with the price. Again, we'll be under budget, so I would recommend that we go ahead and approve this and try to get a newer vehicle for our VOAG students.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations, we need a motion.
Make a motion to approve. I'll second.
And a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item K, discussion, possible board action, vote on sanctioning booster club for 2020-21 school year.
Okay, Stephanie has been working really hard on this, trying to make sure our booster clubs are getting all their information in. She's been in contact with every one of them over the past couple of weeks. They're doing a much better job than we've done in the past. You know, that's something we took on 2 or 3 years ago to try to make sure we were, because they have our name, that we were keeping more track of it. Truthfully, they've done a pretty good job being in compliance. The only way any of them aren't in compliance, if they were supposed to meet here late in the year, they probably haven't met due to the things that are going on. Other than that, they've been in compliance, and Stephanie has made sure they've gotten anything together that they were missing. And so, as you know, our booster clubs, we've got quite a few of them listed here. They do great work for our school, and we're proud to have them. And they're doing a much better job in getting things together and running the clubs the way they need to be run. So I'd recommend that we approve these booster clubs for the upcoming year.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations. We need a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Seconded.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item L, discussion and possible board action, vote on the following appointments for 2020-21 school year.
Again, this is a standard item that we do every year, and it just gives these people that are named the ability to do the named task. So I would recommend that we approve this item.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item M, discussion and possible board action on the following encumbrances. Board members had a chance to look over them. And if so, we need a motion for that.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Okay, information to the board.
Just a few things as far as budget update. You know, you've heard us talking about this CARES Act, the stimulus money. We have received ours. It's about $396,000. Mr. Bayouth has been working on putting a budget together on what we want to do. We've got some ability to alter that budget, so there's still some things that we're working on, but our initial application and budget got approved today, so that's good. So we will submit a claim actually and start getting some of this back. With it being title money, it's one of those things that we know how much we're going to have, but you spend it and then they give it to you and reimburse as you spend, and so we'll be doing that. The thing to remember about this money, if you listen to the legislature, this CARES Act was set up basically to fill the hole of the budget shortfall that we're dealing with this year. And so we are being cut for 4.6% is what it's looking like. And, you know, my figures, I think that's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $360,000, $370,000. So this is actually a little bit more than what I think we're going to be cut. So I think it will fill that hole. But the point I'm making right there is we're not going to make a lot of additional purchases with this. I mean, our goal is to use this to keep operating and moving forward. Because as you know, we've talked about it in here every month for the past few months, you know, our weighted ADM is down, and we're going to be short about almost $500,000 next year due to that. We're coming off of that 2-year high. So while these two things balance out, we've still got that hole to fill. And so, you know, with some things that we're doing this year, I really feel pretty good about this next year that starts July 1st. I think we can make a lot of that up and stay stable to where we're at. The concern really, why we've really got to be careful is for fiscal year 22 if things don't rebound by then. So we're going to be very conservative with how we're budgeting. You know, every resignation we have, we're trying to determine whether we need to rehire in that place or not. And we've got 2 or 3 teachers that we probably won't rehire and fill those positions because we think that we can absorb them. So fortunately, you guys have done a great job. Our budget is very strong. We're projecting a strong carryover. It still looks good, but we're just gonna have to keep watching things as we move forward. And so, I think we're gonna start out okay, and we're gonna be conservative, but it's something we're gonna have to watch for maybe the next couple of years. So hopefully things will bounce back, and you can get every estimate. I mean, the governor thinks that we're in this for the long haul, and you can hear that. A lot of members of the legislature think that things are coming back and they'll be able to give us some money back in the spring. So I don't know, but we've got to prepare for the long haul and hope for the best. But we are in really good shape there. Teacher staff reassignments, as I said, we've had some resigning and a few that we've hired that we'll talk about later. We do have Trina Rowe that's going to be moving from kindergarten to first grade, so that's a reassignment that we'll have. The COSA conference I had mentioned, usually that's a conference that we would be going to this week. It's usually on Wednesday and Thursday, the first week of June. Something that I look forward to every year. It's an opportunity to go down and learn some things that are going on. With the pandemic that we're dealing with, they've gone virtual this year. Mr. Mayhew, Mr. McKinney, and I have all signed up, so we're going to be taking part, later this week in it virtually. So we will still be a part of it, but it's going to be a little bit different than it's been in the past. And then just the final part, just 2 or 3 things I want to mention really quick. Webco Industries, I put a letter in there. I got a call from them about 3 weeks ago. Donnie Holder works for them. His children have come through Cleveland schools. His youngest, Joey, is a sophomore at this time at Cleveland, and he works for Webco, and I think they had their 50th year in business, and so they're doing some things for employees and some of their partners and for schools, and they gave us a $1,500 donation, and so we got a check 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I wanted to publicly thank them for that, and thank you to Donnie for keeping us in mind. They're good supporters. Seems like every time we talk over the last 3 months, I tell you we have 2 weeks left on the baseball, softball buildings, but it's been one of those things. I mean, we really thought we would finish in early April, and then when everything happened, there wasn't a reason to keep pressing the same way. They're working down there, but then when we get a week's worth of rain, it slows us down. And so I checked in on it again today. We are getting close. They have put the sidewalk around 3 of the 4 sides. I'm hopeful they will pour the 4th part later this week. We have the AC unit in it, and so now that that's in, they will be sealing the floor. I believe that's going to happen later this week, doing a little bit of touch-up painting. And as soon as those things are done, they'll come in early next week and install our bathroom partitions, doors, and then we'll start looking at dirt work and sod. So as I've been telling you for 2 months, I think we're about 2 weeks away. So we've had that constant glide, but they are making progress. It's just we have slowdowns along the way. The last thing that I wanted to mention here is just a reminder. We met Friday to talk about graduation, and again, we will have that. Our plan is Saturday, June 20th, 7 o'clock at Billy Vessel's Field. We are still working on the particulars. Intend to have something out by the end of this week, and so that'll be 2 weeks ahead of time, but that's coming up, and so barring something changing and us having to change it at the last minute, then that's the plan at this point, and I just wanted to remind everybody of that. So that's really all I've got at that point.
Okay, public comment. Okay, I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Motion to return to open session.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay. The Board of Education went into executive session at 7:20 PM to discuss the resignations of Jane Adams, Kelsey Stowe, Morgan Applegate, Logan Burgess, Elizabeth Espolt, Julia Flowers, Marshall, to discuss the employment of middle school and middle school principal and middle school assistant principal, to discuss the employment of support employees, Exhibit A, to discuss the employment of certified teachers on temporary contract, and to discuss the employment of seamless summer workers as authorized by Section 25 OS, Section 307B1, and to discuss the contract negotiations with Cleveland Education Association as authorized by Section 25 OS, Section 307B2 of the Oklahoma Open Meetings Act. During session, the board discussed these items and no other items. The board returned to open session at 7:30 PM, and this constitutes the minutes of executive session. Okay. Personnel. Discussion and possible board action on the following resignations.
All right, just real quickly, as you see this list, Jane Adams, a food service worker, she's retiring, been a long-time employee, done a great job here, and so we're excited for her. Keystone Stokes, was an assistant band director for the past 2 years at the high school, and he's done a great job for us. Had an opportunity to take a promotion as the band director at his hometown Skytook, so happy for him as well. Morgan Applegate, I believe her husband had a job in Ardmore and moving that direction. You know, a fine young teacher. We hate to lose her, but we're happy for them in what they're doing. Logan Burgess, taking a position, again, a young teacher that we have here, took a position closer to her family in Kildare. So I can't blame somebody for that. Jason Cooper took a position teaching and coaching in Stroud. I think he had an opportunity to coach some other sports, and so nice guy. You know, I'm pleased for him. Elizabeth Espolt got hired at her hometown in Bristow, so I think that's a good move for her. And then Julia Flowers Marshall, she lives in Sapulpa, and again, another first-year teacher who had done a good job for us, but she recently had a child and was looking to get closer to home, and I think eventually just decided to stay home for the year. So happy for her in that decision. So really each of these good employees, but they've got reasonable reasons to leave, and we wish them all the best.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, item B, contract negotiations with Cleveland Education Association.
I briefly talked with Kathy Holmes earlier in the month. She has been out of state, coming back probably this next week. We will touch base again. With everything going on, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of negotiations, but she and I will talk a little bit, and then we will get Mr. Ward involved as that time comes. But I think that she and I will probably talk either this week or early next week, so nothing else to report than that at this time.
So we probably don't need a motion or anything?
I wouldn't think so. That's just a little bit of information.
Yeah, okay. Okay, item C, discussion and possible board action, vote on employment of the following administrative positions for 2020-21 school year.
First of all, middle school principal. As Mr. Bayouth moved up, we had an opening there, and I'm proposing that we hire Craig Ellis for this position. He spent the past 2 years as the assistant principal. He's spent quite a few years here at Cleveland. He was here for a period of time and then left, went to a couple other schools, and then has been back for 6 or 8 years and has done a good job. We opened this up statewide. We had over 20 resumes. We knew that Mr. Ellis would be tough to beat, But at the same time, if we want the best people in here, and had we found somebody that we thought was more qualified, we would have gone that way. Mr. Bayouth and I did the interviews, and we ended up interviewing 5 applicants, and all of them were good applicants. But when it came down to it, Mr. Ellis was just the strongest applicant. He's a quality person. I think each of you know him. He is going to lead our middle school the way that we want him to be led, and I've got full confidence in the job he'll do. And so I'm excited about bringing his name forward, and that will be my recommendation on that piece. The second piece under that item is the middle school assistant principal. With Mr. Ellis moving up, that leaves that open. And by that same token, for the most part, obviously they're approved by me, but we allow our principals to interview and try to select their best person for the assistant principal. And we had quite a few applicants for that as well. Again, we opened it up, and we tried to be clear throughout that if our best person was coming from outside the system, that's the way that we needed to go, because we wanted our best people here. And so after interviewing, I believe, went through, again, 15, 18 resumes. He came to me and we talked late last week, and he'd like to offer this to Holly Rhodes, and I concur with that decision. If you know a little bit about what Holly's been doing, she has recently kind of taken over our math department school-wide, done some great things as far as that goes. She's got her master's degree. She spent a lot of time back in school over the last 3 or 4 years. Got her master's degree a few years ago, continued going to school, getting certification in STEM, and her administrative certification. And the thing that I really like is the time that she's putting into curriculum and instructional coaching. And, those are some things that have been focal points for us over the past 2 or 3 years. And she's going to have a lot to learn, as all of us do, but she's already partially down that road. And it's going to give her a head start on that. And so I'm excited by that. And, we had 4 administrative positions here, and we hired every one of them from within, and we opened every one of them. And I just want to say, I really think that says a lot. When I sat down with Mr. Bayouth and Mr. Ellis both, I told both of them just about the first thing. I said, I have no doubt that you can do this job. I think you would do it very well. But I want to find the person that I think that can do it very best. And if it's not you, then I want you to stay in the job you're in and keep doing it well. And honestly, both of them were very good at the jobs they already did, as well as Mrs. Rhodes in the job that she did. And leaving them in their positions and bringing somebody in really, really good from outside would have been great. But I just don't know that we found anybody from outside that was better than the 3 that we're going to be moving up. And so I'm encouraged by that. It was a goal a few years ago for us to start working with our staff that wanted to go into administration and leadership positions and help them gain some experiences. And I really think that's part of what gave each of these 3 a head start, is some of the things that we've been working on. So I'm excited about that, and those are my 2 recommendations for these 2 positions.
Okay, I make a motion to hire Craig Ellis as middle school principal and Holly Rhodes as middle school assistant principal.
Seconded.
Got a motion and a second. Call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item D, discussion and possible board action, vote on superintendent's recommendation for employment of certified employees on temporary contract for 2020-21 school year.
Okay, first of all, speech pathologist. We have talked about this almost every meeting for 2021. It's been up and down, but we believe we have found somebody. Her name is Anna Coese. Mrs. Littrell has spent a lot of time with this. I'm really excited about Ms. Coese, and that this will be somebody who comes on campus and works with our students. We looked at some of the distance stuff. We looked at doing it through a monitor, because we were trying to find somebody to help our other speech pathologist, Kelsey Cottom, and we think we have found that person. So I had a chance to visit with her last week. I'm excited about her coming in, and I appreciate the work Mrs. Littrell has done in finding her. Elementary teacher.
We probably need to take these one at a time.
Okay.
Probably should have did that on principle
Okay.
too, but.
I'm sorry.
We got.
I thought because it was under one.
Yeah, but I think we need to take these one at a time.
Great.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, now elementary teacher.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ward. Elementary teacher, I'm recommending Alicia Smith. She interned for us this past year, in the primary school with Mr. Kalk. She's worked at Head Start, went to school to get her degree, and, Mr. Kalk has been high on her. He thinks she's a good young teacher that's gonna do great things, and he was excited about the opportunity, to bring her in. So that would be my recommendation for the elementary teacher spot.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item 30, science teacher.
My recommendation here would be Philip Spec. He, would come in and teach science at the high school, biology, and then coach football and track. He worked with us a little bit 2 years ago, as he was finishing up degree and doing some things. We were high on him then, talked to him possibly about a position at that time, and he was looking to try to go do some other things, and went, I believe, to Norman maybe, and then had the opportunity to come back and jumped on it this time. So I would be excited to bring him in. That's my recommendation there.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion. Second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Assistant band teacher.
We don't have a name at this time. We'll take care of that at the July 1 board meeting.
Okay, special education teacher.
And same thing there. I don't have a name to bring forward to you at this time.
Okay. Item E, discussion and possible board action vote on contract intent recommendation of support personnel for 2020-21 school year.
Okay, I've had our principals and directors review the attached list that we've given you of our support personnel, and these are, I would recommend that we hire these. A lot of times we do that last month. We went ahead and waited a month, even though the list didn't change any of that time, but I would recommend that we rehire all of those on that list.
Okay, you've heard the recommendations, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed. Item F, discussion and possible board action to vote on extra duty for seamless summer optional workers.
And this is our summer food service as we continue to provide food through the month of June. And we approved a list here at last month's board meeting, and these are 5 more names that have been added since that time. So this is the same thing that we did last month. We're just adding 5 more people. Again, this comes out of food service. I think it's great for our community, and it benefits us as a school as well. So I would recommend that we add these 5 names to our summer food service.
Hey, you've heard the recommendations, we need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll make the motion.
You can second it, Rick.
Okay.
Okay, got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, we need one more motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Got a motion and a second, call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passed.
All right.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah.
Bye, Rick.
Yeah.